So again, welcome to Engaged. Why, yes, they are. And so I listed the first picture here, going back to January 30th when we were in a different time at our institution. This is one of our student groups during our annual club crawl, our Chi Alpha Christian Fellowship, where if we saw that picture today, if I posted that picture today and said, "Hey, here are my students and I, just hanging out," there would be a lot of dirty looks and a lot of kind of questions surrounding what are we doing on campus. And so January 30th, not too long ago. Also, just as we think about this concept of online engagement, we should have all invested. You put a little bit of money into some of these tools that have now arisen during the time of COVID-19. But then we should have also been a little bit more intentional in learning and understanding what our students are connected to from a technological standpoint. In many cases, we think our younger students are tech savvy and they're literate in all of these things, and we think that they all have a device and they all know how to connect and they have access to reliable internet. And the pandemic has kind of taught us quite a bit about ourselves throughout the course of this. And so just kind of two, overarching kind of themes that I've learned throughout the course of this time frame. Student Development Services. So this presentation and talking about our events is heavily reliant upon Student Development Services. It's the area where I work. It's the area where I have the most influence. And so I'm mostly talking about programs and activities from these departments. I know there are opportunities and there are things that are happening in our academic affairs area. I know there are things that happen through some of our learning labs. Of course, our library, Tracy's here. And so there are things there, but I'm primarily talking about activities and programs that have happened out of Student Development Services. And so our challenge started in March. When this initially kind of happened, I think it may have been the week of spring break or right before spring break, myself and Mr. Eddie Brassard, that many of you know, we just had a conversation about, if we are off campus, how would we connect with folks? And Eddie, to his credit, mentioned, hey, we could do like a Blackboard page or a Blackboard organization and just throw students in there. And I was like, we could do that. Fast forward maybe an hour or two, and in our Connections Cafe, Eddie and I walked past our campus president, Dr. Madison, and he asked the question. He was like, hey, if we had to engage students online, what would we do? To where I said, we try to do it through Blackboard. And he was like, that's a great idea. Let's keep that in mind. And I just kind of shrugged and was like, it was perfect timing. And so fast forward another week or so, and we extended spring break. And then we realized that we would be working remotely. And so the Student Development Services team went into work in terms of how do we create a place where all of our students have easy access to, that we could do quickly. And so we came to Blackboard, our learning management system, our LMS for academic affairs, mostly in courses, and we created a Blackboard organization for Trinity River Student Development Services. And so I'll minimize in just a bit and I'll pull that site up for you to see, what it looks like if you haven't seen it. But it is a Blackboard organization. There are, probably a couple hundred Blackboard organizations across the college, including our campuses. Trinity River probably has 50 or 60 that are up there. Not all are active that our student organizations use for their activities. But so we are talking about something that is a home for all of our student development services areas. And so in that page is a home for our student organizations, our Trailblazer Leadership Academy, and advertisement for that. We've held and promoted some virtual displays for various things. And so as we think about Juneteenth, as we've done some things around Asian Pacific Islander Month, we had some virtual displays there. We also used it to go in with our cultural heritage celebrations. And so we featured and had a few Trinity Talks events. We've used it to promote, host, and everything related to campus programming. So that's our Constitution Day in the future, guest speakers, meet and greets, other things. And so it is our home for all of those things. And so just very quickly, I'm going to transition and just kind of pull up the web page here. And so when you pull up the web page, and I am logged in to get to this view, on the home page, you would see it under organizations. And so this is what the TRSDS webpage looks like. So it's very similar to our students and their courses. And you'll see all of the tabs over here for folks to interact with. And so you see the various departments, you see some of the student resources and other things that are there that we're able to post and we're able to interact with our students. And so this is kind of our home for everything engagement right now. They would get to it from their homepage, and so their mytccd.edu homepage in Blackboard takes them to something that looks similar to this, and it looks different. I have a whole bunch of courses for new student orientation, of course, but as they scroll down to their organizations, they'll see TRSDS. And so what we have done is we have added all students who are registered through a term in this session, and so, or in this organization. So right now, all of our summer students are enrolled in the TRSDS Blackboard page. We send out one message a week about events and programs that are happening, generally on a Monday, and just saying, hey, these are the things that are happening this week, and we want you to be aware of them. And so student activities is a big part of this. Slide was in our presentation the other day. Student activities, of course, are the way that our students get connected outside of our classroom. Uh-oh, that shouldn't be there. But here we are. We are now at the new student engagement normal. And so what I like to call BC to March 2020, before COVID, we had our traditional campus engagement efforts. You know, things that were on Main Street, Riverfront Cafe, the Idea Store, the Halls Athletic Center, community organizations, and events that we would send students to or take students to. That was the norm, and that is how we engaged our student. Just two images on the screen here show our Idea Store with a Phi Theta Kappa event featuring our president, and some of our other administration is in the background. The photo on the bottom right is a group of students we took to UT Arlington to see the entertainer, rapper, actor, and producer Common, who was there. And so these are things that happened pre-COVID, BC. And so now, thinking COVID-19 and beyond, you know, what do our traditional events look like? You know, we know that with the advent of things like Blackboard Collaborate, which is within the Blackboard organization, outside companies and programs like Google Meet and Microsoft Teams and more, Zoom or some of them and others, we know that in the future now there'll be a mixture of on-campus events and online options moving forward. And I think that has changed in terms of the engagement normal for everything. And so I don't know about you all, but for me, you know, I have young kids, and so the way that they engage with their friends is different. You know, my daughter is like a Zoom queen. She has 4 or 5 of her friends, and they have, you know, weekly Zooms, which have stopped now that we've started school back. You know, my son is doing classes online from varsity tutors and, you know, trying to keep his academics up. And we're finding videos to be able to help him work out because he wants to be an athlete. So we are now relying on a new normal in terms of how we engage within our community. So I have 3 children. One is in the other room right now, 6th grade. And so he is logged into Microsoft Teams pretty much all day doing his courses. And so it is 1:15. I think he is in science right now. And it is a new normal for how they will intake school. And I don't think we'll be going back. There'll be a mixture in our future. And so kind of the meat of what we've done. So we've used the following items to provide programming options to our students. Students are notified through email. I mentioned that earlier. So of course, we need them to check their MyTCC webpage or email address. So we're highly reliant on Blackboard Collaborate, mainly because all of our students have access to it through the learning management system and through their courses. So students are enrolled in their courses, however many they're taking, and then they have access to our student organization in terms of TRSTS as well. And so just some of the events that have taken place there, our annual Trace Awards, our Phi Theta Kappa induction, our leadership series that we finished off in the spring and then had another version in the summer. We've done employer showcases, academic support sessions. We facilitated tutoring sessions. We've had a few concerts, transfer advising, guest speakers, other things. And so we have done quite a bit to try to get our students connected and engaged within our campus. And so we use Blackboard Collaborate probably the most. And that is just because it's easier because we know our students have access to it because they have access to it with their classes. We have ventured out and used some other resources as well. And so we've hosted a few Trinity Talk sessions through Microsoft Teams, similar to the exact same format actually we're using right now. We've done Juneteenth events. And then we've also hosted a podcast through the Intercultural Network that is done through Microsoft Teams, recorded, and then made available for later. We've reached out and started to do some things via Instagram. So our Intercultural Network has done Real People, Real Stories, and they're actually doing a session about the art of storytelling at the same time. I was fortunate to be a guest on it a few weeks ago, but basically short stories where we're tapping into one of those resources we know our students rely on, which is Instagram. We've done some Facebook Live events where we've had guests actually go live and invite our students to a session, or we found areas where we've been able to say, hey, you're doing a program in the example of Ford's Theater that had a program on President Kennedy's assassination. We said, hey, you're doing this program. Do you mind if we promote it to our student body and try to invite them out? And we've been fortunate. People are like, absolutely, because folks are looking for some of those, people to participate in content. We've moved out to Twitch, and Twitch is primarily a gaming platform. And so Game Shows to Go has hosted some online trivia for us. They'll be doing one Thursday of this week during Connections Week. I think it's Thursday. They'll be doing one, and so you'll be able to actually see the platform. That was one of our more popular events. At one time, we had about 90 students who were logged in and who were playing. And then we've used our various emails and other things for just general information sharing. And so it may be us connecting students to resources that are not within our purview. And so saying like, hey, here's some good TED Talks out there about leadership, about support. Here are some good resources out in the web about academic support. We've tried to use the email addresses and information to communicate things about device pickup, online discussion boards, community pages, etc. Learning labs, academic support, all of those things we've tried to promote when we send out messages about TRSDS and what's happening. So here's an example. This was June, I think. And so these are the things that are at Trinity River per se. And so there are some things that are not Trinity River that are not there. And so we use Blackboard, the calendar feature within the Blackboard organization, to post things that are happening for our students to take advantage of. And so this is a clip, but you could click it, read more information, and we would put the link. We are in the process of starting to put things for fall 2020 in there. We're still waiting on some approvals. But starting next week, students will start to see things populated in their calendar within the TRSDS Blackboard group. And so what's on the horizon? Because our session is engaged, yes, they are. We'll continue to provide co-curricular resources for our student community. And with our student community, it's of course open to our faculty and staff. One thing that we will do, and we are critical of ourselves in this, we jumped into this like everyone else did. And so we did not have the proper, we did not have the proper assessment protocol and tracking measures in place. And so we need to improve that. Some of our events and some of our platforms is difficult for us to see how many people are there. We need the right kind of infrastructure in place to track those. We literally took our events from March moving forward, and we said, let's do this online. And how can we do it? Let's go. And so those are some things that we have to do in terms of moving forward. So we are in the process of working with a website called I Am Leagues. We've actually purchased the ad-free site that we'll be rolling out, where we will offer virtual recreational sports opportunities for our students. The first thing is a track 2 tournament, not a sport I'm familiar with. But we will have a college football pick'em for whatever is left of the college season. We're talking about bowl games, fantasy football, Super Smash Brothers, NBA Live. And so some of those things we'll have virtual recreational sports, and we'll be able to track who's winning and who's kind of the winner through I Am Leagues. Same with community service. And if you heard Mr. Eddie Brassard, he talked about some of our virtual service projects. But we'll continue Trinity Talks. Trinity Talks will have more of a social justice focus, is what we're looking for. And I have some stuff that I messed up on here. I think this is the wrong version. We'll continue with our Intercultural Network podcast. We'll continue with our Real People, Real Stories. Prevention education will take place as we are now being in compliant with things related to Title IX, Violence Against Women's Act, and some other things. And so you will see online bookings from our health services area. They will be able to provide online, they will be able to book times for students, faculty, and staff to get online consultations, discuss community resources and other things in a secure environment, and that should launch Monday. Health and wellness programs under the guidance of Mr. Tim Kaysen with a campus committee that's being created. And then we will continue information sharing, and we're working on other activities like an arts and culture broadcast. So you heard our musicians today. We're talking about trying to create a series where we record a 20 or 30-minute conversation with a local artist. It could be a musician. It could be an artist. It could be a literary writer, and just have a conversation, a few questions that we would try to ask them, all tied to Tarrant County, and try to put that out for students to review and take in when they can. Some other things that we have on the horizon, as our first week activities, our resource week and our involvement week, we're trying to brand those a little bit better. So those first 3 weeks, our students are with us. There's programming and activities and things that we have planned and ready to go. Our first week is some of those traditional events. But one thing we'll do during first week is we will have all day Blackboard Collaborate sessions open from 7 to 7. So it's similar to our tables on campus, but there'll be faculty and staff who volunteered who will just be there when a student pops in with a question. We'll be there to answer their question. We'll be doing some things with our with a game show for students. We'll have some things, our student activities Palooza, where we'll have some videos and other things for students to engage in during our first week. More information is to come on all 3 of them. We're working on some promotional and some marketing pieces, and we're trying to tie some things together across actually the college. We're trying to work and do some things college-wide. So we don't have all of our final marketing pieces just yet. So now I need your help. And so as we think about this, and I'm kind of looking at my phone here to kind of see some folks here. I see a few folks have joined the conversation. Hey, James. Hey, Robin. Hey, Jacqueline have joined our conversation. And so now I need your help in the time that we have left. And I want to have a dialogue here. If you were in student development services, how would you promote your events? And right now we know that we can do some things through the larger website in terms of the Trinity River website. We also know that we can send emails to our students. Social media is an option. What are some other ways that we could potentially engage our students? I'm going to minimize my screen a little bit here so I can see a little bit better. You can unmute yourself. You can jump in and kind of share some of those, or you can place those in the chat, and I can see the chat right here. So what are some things that we're missing? Are we missing the social media push? If you were a student today, how could we find you? I see a comment. I think social media and emails work really well. We have had some conversations about how do we do things in terms of the website. So we're actually working on those things right now. There are some comments here about Facebook, Instagram, and Twitch. So believe it or not, and this is going to sound bad for when they review this and share this with other people, we are not allowed to have individual social media accounts. And so social media is controlled by the college. The only group who has seemed to skirt that is the Intercultural Network, who has gotten them an Instagram account, and I'm not mad at them. But so we're not supposed to do that. So we have to work centrally through the college, but I love the comments here. I see some other things here. And so I see virtual classroom visits. And so can you say a little bit more about how that would work? So are you saying we would get in touch with a professor and drop in during their class? Because I'm trying to see how we can better promote events. So go ahead, please.
Actually, Tracy just said the same thing. Like during regular class sessions,
Oh,
regular virtual class session, you could have like a 5 to 10 minutes to make announcement, and then student can ask questions.
I love it. See, we haven't thought about that, and so that's kind of where we need your help, and our staff is willing to do it. So thank you both for kind of
Yeah,
putting
to
that
add
there.
to that,
Hmm.
sorry, Carter, I didn't mean to
No, go
interrupt,
ahead.
but to add to that, at like a pre-recorded video, like commercial style, that's just like a minute or 2 minutes that professors can post in their Blackboard, in their announcements within Blackboard for those classes that don't meet synchronously.
Hmm. I like that, like filming a commercial, and that's great because we've ordered a new video camera, and we've ordered a green screen and some other things for us to kind of have a production kind of area. So we've actually ordered those things, and we've talked about what could we record. So us actually making some commercials for some of our events. Great idea. Um, I'm just kind of reading here. Romero V, thank you. Just puts emails we could send links with an event, no individual social media account. Yep. So, and when we do send our emails, I did have it up somewhere. When we do send our emails, we do include some links in there for students to see. Um, I think I closed it when I was listening to the band earlier today. Yeah, I don't see it right now. But so that is something that we do in terms of using those links, so people can click directly on those events. And so I think we kind of went into some of those in terms of what ideas we're missing. And so how can we encourage participation? Um, I think that I think there is a piece of fatigue that's out there. And so I can just think about it from my own perspective. So today, for instance, I logged in and was at the computer at 7:30 for our first session this morning to make sure that everything was together behind the screen because I was one of the producers. And so I've been pretty much sitting here since about 7:30. I've gotten up a few times to check on the virtual school kids in my house, but I've been pretty much right here. So around 5 o'clock, I'm gonna turn off the computer. But so am I likely to log into something? Oh yeah, campus is doing that event at 5:30, 4 o'clock, but I've been in front of a computer screen all day. Maybe not. But how can we encourage them? So we've actually talked about, prize packs. And so we would send out a prize pack to someone via the mail if they participated in an event, kind of did a survey or some type of assessment at the end of it. We've talked about doing that, and so we actually started it this summer. So some students who did our Summer of You Leadership Series is what we called it. There were 28 students, I think, who completed it. We sent each of them a goodie bag over the course of the summer. And so we're actually working on something similar for students who do all of the requirements of new student orientation. And so I see some comments here, incentives and how everyone loves swag. And so the college is actually working on some things that may happen pretty soon in terms of trying to increase what we're calling a sense of belonging. So there may be some other things that we can send out to students as well. It does get expensive, when we start thinking about it, but we are saving on some other things in terms of not having the face-to-face. And so there may be some pickups, and there may be some mailings as well. So looks like everybody thinks incentives and swag are a good thing. Are our students doing things just because it's good for them? I don't know. We've seen some things with our transfer center. We've seen some high participation in some of our targeted sessions for major of interest. So nursing, business, or some sessions that they've had. So we've seen some higher participation because people have those specific questions. And so here's kind of the big one. As a faculty or staff member, as someone who is connected, as someone who may have college-age children or no students, what's something you would like to see? What have you heard from folks? What would they like to see? on our campus. And, right now, our semester is basically an open slate. In just a moment, I will pull up our working calendar of kind of what we have going, just so you can have an idea of, what we're planning for the semester. But what are some things that you would like to see on campus? And actually, while we talk about that, I'll shift to pull that up. So what are some things you would like to see on campus? Hey, Jeffrey, I didn't greet you earlier. Anything anyone would like to see? So I see we love the cultural connections, especially anything having to do with music. Okay. And so are there, one of our thoughts, and so I'm glad you actually said that. So we're talking about an event right now, literally Thursday of last week, about basically doing an art and culture showcase. Almost, we've come up with 6 or 7 questions. We would invite an artist. And so I'll pick on Eddie Brassard. If you know Eddie, our assistant director, he's born and raised in the Fort Worth area. Eddie is an artist. So outside of TCC, he goes to art shows, he sells his art, etc. So we literally I had a conversation with him and I was like, so Eddie, if I were to talk to you about your art, and so basically made this a show, we would maybe do something via Google Meet or something like that, something that's easily accessible and recorded, how would that work? And then the college would give you like a small honorarium, because we know in many cases our artists, our musicians are struggling because so many things have been shut down and reduced. And so how could we maybe do something like that? A few questions, an interview style, ask them to show their work. So give us kind of a virtual display of your art, a virtual performance, similar to what we had earlier today with Toro Tuesday. It would be short. We would ask you a few questions. We would post it online and let everyone know how to connect with them. Is kind of one of the ideas we've been talking about here at TR to start this semester. So Eddie doesn't realize it or know it, but we had the conversation and he'll probably be our first guest, because if you haven't seen his art, he has some great artwork that's out there. Virtual open mic sessions. Okay, I like that. So giving students an opportunity to just kind of have an open mic night, but they can do it from the comfort of their own homes. So I like that. What are some other things? And so as we have transitioned into our, kind of our quote unquote quarantine, what are some things that you've engaged in that you found very fun, that you found engaging, that you were glad that you did that? What are some of those things? Anything else out there? Exercise sessions on Zoom. Now, I can't lead that exercise session, but we could bring someone in potentially to lead an exercise session. So that would be great. Yep. So one thing, I'll transition here, and then we can, kind of go right back into it. So I'm going to share my screen again, and show you a few things that we have going for the semester. Wrong screen. I think everyone with their work from home setup is trying to figure it out. So we have, and I'll show you from this view. So as we come into the semester, and I know this is next to impossible to read, but just to give you an idea of how we've kind of planned out the semester, and this is just the SDS events right now. And so we have just started to reach out to see what other departments and areas are looking to do, so we can try to put it on one shared calendar that's available for students. So we basically took all of these events and put them in a Google spreadsheet. And so you can kind of see some of the information here. And so some of them, of course, are repeat events. Our formatting's crazy on some, but you'll see events that are going through the semester. And I think there are close to 300 of them here. We were very intentional to say, hey, let's try to offer things at multiple times. So some things you'll see quite a bit. So community, real people, real stories happens 3 times a week. The value of a mentor, though, if you see it one time, it's on Wednesday, September 16th, then you're going to see it on another day at a different time. So we were very intentional to try to offer options for our students, knowing that we will also record some of their content and make it available. So here you see it's at 12:30 on a Wednesday. And if you look at Thursday, it's at 3 o'clock on a Thursday. And so I mentioned, of course, video game tournaments and some other things. But as you scroll through, there are quite a few different events that are out here, a virtual employer interview showcase. We're working with a vendor who's going to teach hand lettering a couple different times. And so quite a few things here. So we're not at a point where we're ready to share this yet because it's still going through a couple changes and edits. But as I click through the various weeks, you're able to kind of see some of the things that are going on that would be going on campus, quote unquote, virtually, that students can log into from wherever they may be. And so just to give you an idea, I'll just click through a couple of those weeks. Some things you see at the top are sessions that are, that are going month long, et cetera. But again, this is something that we're still in the process of working on. But just to let you know, these things are on the horizon. And so we do have a plan to engage our students as we go through the semester. And so I'm going to pull my PowerPoint back up here. So as we talk about, what is going on. Hey, the boss came in. Hey, Julie. I'm speaking to everyone as they come in. So I'm not calling you out. I'm speaking to everyone.
Good. I'm glad you're not calling me out. Hey, Al.
Nope. And so as we kind of talk about those things, it's just those events that you would like to see on campus. And so you guys have given some great suggestions in terms of, how can we promote physical fitness? And so we're talking about exercise sessions. I think the music and some of those things there are definitely key. And we could try to touch on various genres that would connect our students to us. And so who could we feature in Fort Worth who could do some of those things? You guys gave suggestions that we could have some incentives, and you seem to like the idea of sending things to our students. And then also we're kind of missing the social media boat based on some of our comments earlier as well. Oh, my screen's not advancing. Oh, all feedback is love. And so that's really what I had, kind of going through what we did last semester, talking about some things we've done over the course of the summer and things that we're looking to do to the fall. But the purpose of this presentation was to let you all know that we will continue to engage our students. When everything shut down in terms of, leave campus, I think Student Development Services as a whole, we were stagnant for probably a week as we were like, okay, so what are we doing? How do we do this? And literally we got to work to make sure that we could provide outlets and places for our students to get connected. So by all means, thank you for being here, but please shoot me an email. Let's set up a conversation. Let's talk about your ideas. We are looking at any and all ways that we can connect with our students. And so we know that this will change the way that we interact with students moving forward. And so we're accepting that challenge. We know that we will have an online component moving forward. So if we're back on campus in January, let me knock on something. If we're back on campus in January, we're not going to abandon this online engagement. There will be options for our students to participate in multiple ways. And so with that, I am done. Are there any questions, comments, thoughts, suggestions, anything anybody wanted to share? Dr. Amon, did you want to add or share anything?
I mean, I'm happy to, if anyone has a question, I'm happy to help out with you.
Anything? Anybody got anything? Anything you wanted to share? Thank you, Robin. Hey,
Here, I have
Julie.
a question,
Go,
actually, if you don't mind.
go ahead, Tracy. Yes.
So can you expand a little bit on how the virtual Ask Me tables are going to work next week? Are students like getting an invite to a certain Collaborate session, or I'm trying to kind of visualize how this is going to work.
So two things. I mentioned earlier with our TRSDS Blackboard, we enroll all current students, and so actually this morning they are working on a help ticket to move into the TR. So we're going to remove students from the previous semester, so summer term, and we're going to upload all of the fall students into a Blackboard session. So we're in the process of doing that. We would have done it by now. But with the extension of registration, we were trying to not boggle down our learning management support group and ask them to do it multiple times for us. So our goal is to have it uploaded by Friday, which is the 20th, that's Thursday, with knowing that it may not be ready that day. So Friday, we're okay. And we're going to send a message out to that entire group, letting them know about the TRSDS Blackboard and letting them know about the first week activities and letting them know about if you have questions. This is the open Collaborate link that you can log into and ask your questions. So it will go there. We're already kind of telling students about it in new student orientation. So we have had, I don't know the actual number, but we probably had 6 to 8 new student orientation sessions with numbers up to 100 down to probably 20 or 30 in those sessions. And so those students will also get notice about the Ask Me tables. And so it will be an open Collaborate link. I think Kelsey is sending out the assignments along with an FAQ tomorrow. And so I think we had 2 or 3 spots that were open. So we had good participation in signups. And so it'll be an open Collaborate link. So whoever you're assigned, I think we're together one time. The 2 of us will be there. We'll talk, chit chat. And then when we see a student come in, we'll greet that student. We'll try to answer their question and go from there. So we will send out the Collaborate link to first-time in college students through new student orientation who have that course. They will receive it, but then we'll also send it out to all of those students who are in the TRSDS Blackboard page.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. Now I was just going to, and Dr. Amon, if you had anything you wanted to add, or if there's any questions for our Vice President who is here, I know she'll be happy to entertain those, and I'll assist if I need to.
I just think that, I guess the one thing that I would say, which I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, was, I guess I was really surprised at not at how awesome, Carter, your team was in kind of creating this virtual engagement, because I never doubted you, but at how it kind of opened up our eyes to the new possibilities of engaging our students, and different types of modalities, different ways of connecting, different learning styles, different ways of reaching students who aren't necessarily on our campus in the same kind of ways that some of our kind of usual suspects are and everything. So, I think that it's never going to be the same as a face-to-face interaction, but just because it's different doesn't mean that it's less than. I think now the challenge is to, how to really build that student interest in trying out this new type of engagement. I think some students will come to it, fairly easily. Some students, it might be a little bit harder. So I think, looking forward, I'm hoping that we can work with our faculty colleagues, as well as the staff across the campus, to really try to figure out how to put those opportunities to come together in a sense of community and camaraderie in front of students in multiple ways, whether that be in class, outside of class. So I just, I think it's really, really important that we figure out how to work together. We just keep trying lots of things. I don't think there's any one right way of engaging students or trying to connect. And we know our students students are different and diverse, and so they're going to make decisions about how to connect in different kinds of ways. So I think it's just really important for us to keep innovating, keep communicating, keep trying new things. But also, I think it's important to try to find opportunities for us to get feedback from students. So we can go out there and plan all kinds of fabulous things, but my perspective on what might be fun and interesting might be a little bit different than a 19-year-old, or a 50-year-old with 3 kids and a grandkid who's working 60 hours a week. So I mean, I just think that I think it's important for us and incumbent upon us to be able to really meet students where they are and figure out how we can connect them and help them understand why we think it's so important to have those connections. So for me, it's just really about kind of rolling up our sleeves and getting in and partnering to do the hard work of trying to meet students where they are and help them be successful.
One thing, and this is a terrible admission, but I'll admit it, our campus coordinators of student activities, where they meet regularly, we very rarely, and I'm what's called the director liaison for that group, we very rarely talk about those shared programs across the district. And so this environment has really caused us to kind of take a step back and say, okay, where you're planning online things and you're planning online things that anybody can go to, why don't we work a little bit closer on some of those things? And so we're in the process of trying to collaborate on some calendaring and say, hey, these are our options for Hispanic Heritage Month. These are our options for Native American. And, what do those look like and what are the campuses offering? Because again, any student can go to them. We've never told a student, nope, you go to South Campus, you can't come to this program. But we haven't really been inclusive in our thinking and our planning. And so this has forced us to think about that a little bit more. And shout out to our Connect staff. Our Connect staff have been dynamic in helping us transition in terms of putting new student orientation online, in terms of troubleshooting Blackboard Collaborate. They have been phenomenal. And so it has really opened our eyes. We were very dependent upon the student walking on Main Street to pass my event, or smelling the food in the cafe or the idea store or whatever it may be. And we can have some of that again in 2021. But there's a way that we can engage them online. And so we're up for the challenge, and we'll be doing that. If there are no other comments, though, I'll move us to our close. I think I did everything I was supposed to because I recorded. So I'm not trying to get in trouble there. As always, I am available, willing to have a conversation, always looking for ideas that I can take back to the team. And so feel free to email me, carter.bedford@tccd.edu. I'll put that in the chat over here. And with that, I will close.